What if inside a black hole isn't a place, but a sentence the universe forces you to finish? You've heard the phrase 1,000 times, nothing escapes. But that's the outside story. The terrifying part is what Einstein's equations whisper about the moment you cross the edge and why your brain cannot picture it. Because your brain treats space like a box and time like a river. A black hole breaks both. Here's the first twist. The event horizon is not a glowing wall. It's not a trapdoor. You feel, slam, shutch. If you were falling, you wouldn't notice the crossing at all. No alarm. No impact. No, now you're inside. Just normal physics. Right up until the universe quietly removes every possible path back. And yet, to someone watching far away, you never quite go in. You fade, you slow, you become a frozen silhouette, stretched into dimness. Two realities, two honest clocks, both correct already, that should bother you, because it means what happened depends on where you stand. Now, I'd lie to you. The closer you get, the more your signals crawl upward, redder and weaker, as if the universe is draining the color out of your messages. It's not drama. It's geometry. Spacetime is bending so hard that out stops being a direction light can easily take. So when does the terror actually begin? Einstein's answer is hidden in a detail most people miss. Gravity doesn't just pull you through space. It reshapes time itself. Near a black hole, time stops behaving like something you measure and starts behaving like something that pushes you, like a one-way slope, like a direction you can't turn around in. And that's where inside becomes disturbing, because the deeper you fall, the less the word later means what you think it means. The closer you get, the more the universe forces your future to aim at one destination, whether you want it or not. But what is that destination really? A place, or the end of, before and after itself. Stay with me, because the next step is where the black hole stops being an object and becomes a different kind of reality entirely. Before we go any deeper, pause for a second. If this already feels unsettling, that reaction matters. This isn't just entertainment. Understanding what Einstein actually implied about black holes changes how you think about time, causality, and even your own place in reality. That's why engaging with this content isn't optional if you want the full picture to click. If something here challenged the way you've always imagined space or time, let me know in the comments. Even a short reaction helps anchor the idea in your mind. And if you're following this thread so far, leaving a like tells the algorithm this kind of deep, uncomfortable science deserves the horror is subtle. The event horizon is not something you hit. It's something your future loses. Once crossed, every version of tomorrow available to you lies deeper inside. Even turning around is not a meaningful action anymore, because a way has been removed from the map of possibilities. It's not that you won't escape, it's that escape is no longer a word with physical meaning. Think about that psychologically. A prison you can feel is terrifying. A prison you can't feel, one that only exists in the structure of time, is worse. You don't experience the lock. You experience only the absence of alternatives. And now, the most disturbing twist. The horizon isn't just stealing space from you. It's quietly rearranging time, so that what you think of as the future is no longer open-ended. It has direction. It has inevitability. If the horizon is not a wall in space, but a tipping point in time, then the real danger isn't falling inward. It's realizing that the universe has already decided what later means for you. This is where the idea of a black hole stops being about falling and starts being about time hunting you. Because near a black hole, gravity doesn't just slow clocks. It reshapes what time is allowed to do. Far from the black hole, time feels like a neutral background. It flows. You measure it. You schedule your life inside it. But Einstein showed that this calm, universal flow is an illusion. Close to extreme gravity, time stops behaving like a river and starts behaving like terrain. As you descend, your future doesn't just get shorter. It tilts. Each second you experience points more aggressively inward. It's not that the black hole pulls you harder. It's that time itself has been bent into a slope you cannot climb back up. This is the part most explanations avoid because it's unsettling. Inside the horizon, moving forward in time is mathematically similar to moving inward in space. You don't choose to go deeper. You age deeper. Your heartbeat, your thoughts, your awareness, all of it carries you closer to the center simply by existing. From the outside, this looks like freezing. From the inside, it feels ordinary. That contradiction is the core terror of relativity. The same event can be both endless and inevitable, depending on where you stand. Now consider what this means psychologically. If time is no longer a neutral dimension, but an active force, then the black hole isn't a place that kills you. It's a process that consumes your future. You don't fall toward destruction. You live toward it. And here's the twist that makes it worse. Nothing special marks the moment when time becomes hostile. There is no alarm that tells you, from here on, your future is sealed. The universe doesn't announce inevitability. It just quietly rewires the geometry of what can happen next. This reframes the fear entirely. The danger isn't pain or darkness. The danger is certainty. A future that no longer branches. A reality where choice loses its physical meaning, not philosophically, but geometrically. If time itself has become the conveyor belt carrying you inward, then the question, how long until the end, starts to collapse. Because the closer you get, the less long means what it used to mean. And that raises the next, far more disturbing question. If time is dragging you inward, whether you like it or not, what exactly is it dragging you toward? At this point, most people try to rescue themselves with one last comforting idea. Okay, so you cross the horizon and then you fall for a while. Like falling down a deep tunnel. That image is still too human. To Earth, it assumes there's a clear sequence. First outside, then inside, then deeper, then the end. Einstein's black hole doesn't give you that kind of story. Here's the paradox that shatters it. From the outside, you never finish the fall. From your perspective, you do, and you do it fast. One version of reality contains an eternal approach. The other contains a finite descent. And again, there is no referee to declare one more real. This matters because it means the sentence you fall into the black hole is incomplete, unless you also specify who is telling the story. To a distant observer, your time slows as you near the horizon. Your signals take longer and longer to arrive. Stretched, reddened, weakened. If you tried to broadcast, "I'm okay," the message would arrive as a ghost, delayed, distorted, and eventually so faint it blends into the background of the universe. In their reality, you become a fading imprint on the horizon, a memory that never quite completes. But in your reality, your watch ticks normally. Your thoughts remain sharp. You cross the horizon in finite proper time. The universe outside may appear to brighten and speed up in strange ways, but you do not wait forever. You do not hover. You continue. So, which is true? Both. And that's what should terrify you, because it means what happened is not a single global narrative. Reality is stitched from perspectives that don't merge cleanly. Now add a new layer. The black hole doesn't just divide stories. It divides information. From the outside, the horizon behaves like a surface where information seems to pile up. Everything you were, everything you carried, every detail of your motion appears to smear onto that boundary, never quite crossing. This is one of the reasons black holes became such a philosophical crisis. Does the universe destroy information, or is it somehow preserved? Einstein didn't have quantum mechanics to answer that fight, but his geometry set the stage for the most disturbing possibility. The universe may keep perfect accounting while still refusing to let any observer see the full ledger. And now here's the twist that flips the fear inward. If two observers can disagree about whether you ever entered, then inside is not just a location. It's a relationship between time, information, and perspective. So when you ask, what is inside a black hole? You're also asking, inside for whom and when? And that question leads straight to the place Einstein's theory points to, but cannot fully describe the so-called center. Not as a thing you reach like a destination, but as a limit where the words you rely on begin to fail. Because the next step is where we confront the most dangerous idea in the entire story. That the center isn't just deadly, it might be where, and when stop making sense at all. If the journey toward the center felt inevitable before, this is where it becomes conceptually violent. Because when people imagine the core of a black hole, they picture something dense. A crushed star, an infinitely heavy object, a monstrous dot of matter waiting at the bottom. Einstein's equations tell a stranger, more unsettling story. The center is not an object sitting at a location. It is a breakdown. In general relativity, the mathematics doesn't describe a thing you arrive at and observe. It describes a limit where curvature becomes infinite and the concepts you use to orient yourself distance, duration, before, after lose their meaning. This is what physicists call a singularity, but that word hides how radical it is. A singularity is not a place where physics predicts something extreme. It is a place where physics stops predicting at all. As you move inward, space and time exchange roles in a disturbing way. Time becomes more directional, more compulsory. Space loses its freedom. By the time you approach the center, there is no sense in which you can avoid it. Not because of force, but because your future is geometrically glued to it. The center is not ahead of you in space. It is ahead of you in time. This is the reframe most people miss. Inside a black hole, the singularity is not something you fall toward. It is something you age toward. Every tick of your heart is a step closer. Not metaphorically, but physically. And here's the uncomfortable admission Einstein's theory makes. It cannot tell you what happens there. The equations explode. The curvature diverges. The predictive power vanishes. That doesn't mean the singularity is a physical thing with infinite density in the everyday sense. It means our description of reality has reached its edge. That alone should disturb you. We trust physics because it explains a black hole marks a region where explanation itself fractures. This is where modern physicists start whispering about quantum gravity, about spacetime being emergent, about the idea that space and time might not be fundamental at all. But Einstein's legacy here is brutal. He showed us, with full mathematical honesty, that the universe contains places where our most trusted concepts fail completely. So when you ask what exists at the center, the most truthful answer is not something terrifying. It's we don't know how to ask the question anymore. And that sets up the final unavoidable implication. If the center is not a place and the horizon is not a wall, then inside a black hole may not be a region of space in the way you think. It may be something closer to a fate. At this point, the word inside should already feel suspicious, because after everything Einstein's theory has forced us to accept, it no longer behaves like a normal location. There is no room you enter, no chamber at the core, no final scene where you arrive and look around. What waits for you past the horizon is not a place you occupy, it's a destiny you move toward in time. This is the final inversion that most explanations never make explicit. Outside the black hole, space is what you move through, and time is what happens to you. Inside it. That relationship collapses. The singularity is not somewhere you could point to on a map. It is something your future collapses into. The black hole doesn't contain a monster at its heart. It contains an unavoidable tomorrow. And that is why Einstein's answer is terrifying in a quiet, philosophical way. There is no dramatic finale guaranteed by his equations. No description of fire, pressure, or annihilation that you can visualize. Instead, there is something colder, inevitability written into geometry, a universe where the structure of reality itself decides what must happen next, regardless of intention or awareness. From this perspective, a black hole becomes less like a cosmic object and more like a mirror held up to reality. It exposes something deeply uncomfortable about the universe we live in, that what feels like free movement and open possibility may, under the right conditions, collapse into a single allowed outcome. Not because of choice, not because of morality, but because of structure. Now, step back and let that echo outward. If space and time can rearrange themselves so completely near a black hole, then they were never the rigid, absolute stage you grew up imagining. They were always flexible, contextual, dependent on perspective and energy. The black hole just makes that truth impossible to ignore. This is why Einstein's legacy here is not just scientific, it's existential. He didn't just predict strange objects in distant galaxies. He revealed that reality itself is less solid, less intuitive, and less comforting than your senses insist. So when you ask, what's inside a black hole, the most honest answer Einstein gives is not a picture. It's a warning. Reality does not work the way you think it does, and under extreme conditions, it stops working the way your mind needs it to. If you made it this far, you're not just casually watching science, you're letting your intuition get dismantled and rebuilt, and that's rare. So here's what I want you to subscribe, because this channel is where we keep pushing past the comforting lies your brain tells you about time, space, and reality. Hit like if this genuinely shook the way you picture the universe. It helps this kind of deep, unsettling content reach more curious minds instead of getting buried. And leave a comment so I know you stayed for the full journey. Comment inside is a future if the idea that a black hole is a destiny rather than a place hits you hard, or comments. Time is the trap. If the moment you realize time can become a one-way slope freaked you out,